Good morning. My name is Susan Reardon. I'm the staff hearing officer, and I call the meeting of Wednesday, September 26th to order. Today we have two items on the agenda. One's a consent item, and the other one's a regular project. And I haven't received any requests for continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or ex-agenda items, so I'll hear them in the order they appear on the agenda. The next item is announcements and appeals, and I have no announcements, and we've had no recent appeals. So then I'll move on to comments from members of the public pertaining to items not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the staff hearing officer on items not on today's agenda? Seeing no one. The first item or the only item on the consent calendar is a request for a one-year time extension of a tentative subdivision map and a modification approved by the staff hearing officer on October 1st, 2014 for a property located at 1135 San Pasqual Street. I've reviewed the information provided in the staff report and agree with staff's analysis that the project continues to be in conformance with the zoning ordinance, including the new zoning ordinance that was adopted in effective last year. And the project has gone through quite a bit in terms of implementing the approvals, including the recordation of the map. However, they're trying to coordinate with Public Works regarding the bridge placement, so this one-year time extension is appropriate. So therefore, I will approve the request, and the new expiration for the tentative subdivision map and the modification is October 1st of 2019. So then we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is project at 881 Paseo Forello. If the applicant would like to come up to the table. Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good to see you again.
Anytime you're ready, Stephanie.
Okay. So good morning. Today we're here to talk about two interior setback modification requests as well as a hedge height modification request. The existing 7,506 square foot RS15 zoned lot is outlined here in pink. It is developed with a single residential unit, a detached garage, and an in-construction accessory dwelling unit beneath the garage. The existing dwelling is non-conforming to both interior setbacks. The setbacks are shown here in green. Both the eastern and western interior setbacks. The Title 30 established allowable non-conforming additions, but only on the first floor, and the proposed additions we're talking about today are on the second and third floors of this building, so modifications are required. The lot is non-conforming to the floor-to-lot area ratio. However, the proposed additions are less than 100 square feet. So this one-time addition is allowed without an FAR modification. Any future additions would require Planning Commission review. The in-construction accessory dwelling unit was approved under the previous state law in effect in the city, which did not include the unit as part of floor area. Under the current city ordinance, the unit would count towards floor area, but since it was permitted under the state law, zoning staff reviewed it and determined that the construction of that ADU didn't use up that one-time 100 square foot addition. And this lot was part of a city downzone in the 1970s that changed the lot from E3 zoning, which is now called RS 7.5, with a 6-foot interior setback to E1, now called RS 15, with a 10-foot interior setback. So it was constructed conforming at the time, but you can see once the setbacks were moved back to 10 feet, the house did become non-conforming. So if you can flip to the post-it. So in regards to the eastern interior setback along this side here, we're looking at a 32 square foot addition to an existing dining room, as well as a 6-foot deck extension off the back of the house, off of the back of an existing deck that would all be in line with the existing house. Additionally, on the next floor right above this,
Bless you.
there's a matching addition to the master suite with a deck addition that would go to the edge of the existing house. Staff is supportive of both of these encroachments in the eastern setback, with the dining room and deck promoting indoor-outdoor living opportunities, both of these additions being in line with the existing encroachment of the residence, and it would be expanding the existing development, providing more floor area in those rooms in a useful way. Privacy impacts for the neighbor are not anticipated in conjunction with the hedge height modification. There's an existing hedge that runs along here that we will talk about in a few moments. So going back to the second floor, in the western interior setback along this side, we are talking about a powder room addition and a deck extension to match that of the eastern interior setback. For the powder room, if we look over here at the existing plan, this wall here on this edge is being demolished and pushed forward approximately 2 feet 3 inches, and then the powder room would be extended to be in line with the building. The existing powder room is approximately 7.6 by 2.6. The proposed powder room would be approximately 11.9 by 2.6. Staff is not supportive of the powder room extension, as it's no more uniform improvement than what currently exists, with the deck dead ending at the end here. It's the same kind of dead end here. It would not accomplish the goals listed in the applicant letter of providing views off of the entrance, as there's still a visual barrier here when you come into the house. And an extended powder room is not considered an appropriate improvement on the lot any more so than the existing powder room already is. Staff is supportive of the deck encroachment in the back, for the exact same reasons we're supportive of it in this setback. It's promoting the outdoor living space. It's on grade with the existing deck and in line with this existing building. And again, privacy impacts aren't anticipated for the neighbors due to existing landscaping and the hedge height modification request. So in terms of the hedge height modification request, if we flip to the very last page, it's best shown on this elevation here. The existing hedge height is about 25 feet, but per direction from the SFDB, there was a request to cut it down a little bit so that the roof line would be shown. And so the request is to allow the hedge height to remain at approximately 23 feet. And so that's where we can really start to see that third floor deck, the second floor deck. There's really not a concern about privacy impacts for the neighbors next door. Staff's big concern about hedge heights would be other lots being impacted for solar access, but these lots are all sloped and south-facing and feature amenities like decks that promote outdoor living on all of these surrounding parcels, and so there really isn't a concern that these hedges would impact other neighbors' solar access. And also hedges in this area are this kind of height and building height regularly, and staff did receive letters of support through the design review process for the hedge height from the immediate 3 surrounding neighbors on the east, west, and south side. There was one letter of dissent about the hedges, and that was from the northern neighbor, but their concern was about private views, and the city staff does not regulate private views. And the project was reviewed by the Single Family Design Board twice on May 14th and June 11th of this year. The SFDB did note support for the modifications in the requested minutes, and those are included in the staff report. And the project is also exempt from CEQA under categorical exemptions 15301 and 15305. The site is located in an archaeologically sensitive area, but we do have reports on file noting the very unlikely discovery of archaeological impacts. So we did include a standard condition of approval for construction in the unlikely event of discovery that construction would cease and consultants would be brought in. The site is also located in the demolition review study area, so the urban historian looked at the project. The existing house is less than 50 years old, and there are no impacts to historic resources in the area anticipated. The project is subject to Tier 2 stormwater management plan requirements, and other than the letters that were received during the design review process, there has been no contact from the public at the counter, calls, emails, letters, nothing.
Okay, great, thank you. Would you like to state your names for the record? Provide additional comments?
Sure. Clay Arell, architect, AB Design Studio.
Todd Davidson, property owner.
Greg Chrisman, AB Design Studio.
Is it with 2 Gs and 1 G? Oh, it's right here, sorry. Okay, would you like to add anything? Ooh.
Yeah, I'd like to just kind of address a few things first and foremost. I think number one,
Which plan do you want?
this is fine. We have this is a very unique house. From a modernist architecture perspective, it's very rational and square and boxy, and it's just kind of the way this was designed. We spent a lot of time with single-family design board discussing these particular encroachments on the side of the building, and that it really helped with the rationality of the building and the architecture and balancing the elevation and things of that nature. So of the modifications that have been presented by staff, I think there's the one modification, which I think is the hedges. I'm kind of starting with the easy ones. That one, in my mind, seems to be pretty straightforward.
Well, I do want clarification of where it is, because I've gone out on the site, and
Okay.
it looks like it's on the neighbor's property. Some of them is on yours, and some of them is on, so where on, there's just generic notes, but what hedges are you talking about?
The hedges on this side are mostly on our property, actually. There's a hedge line right along here.
This
A few trees.
here is a fence with ivy, and then there's a fence, a wooden fence where the hedge is on along here,
Yep.
and then up here, it appears it's on this side, these guys. So I have
That's about
pictures
right. Yeah, that's about right.
it's
The
the-
highest hedges are the ones down here, though, along the house.
along, so
they're
here's,
mostly
this is the
on-
one I talked about. So here's these are the ones are truly on your property. So, because here's the fence on the other side of the gate going down here. There's
That's
not.
yeah, that's
So
right.
there's no-
Yeah. So these hedges, actually, you're right, aren't on our property.
Yeah, so, okay, so it's
So
just
some
these
of
ones
some
along
of
the
these
fence
hedges
line?
here. This is, to be honest, well, you make a good point, because the property line is not exactly where the fence is.
And that's
yeah.
hard, yeah.
That
That's
happens.
true
okay.
throughout the city.
Okay, exactly. So that's one point. Secondly, but it's close. Okay, it's within a foot or two. The neighbor here wants to have these hedges so they don't have to look at our house, and vice versa. And same with the neighbor here. But you make a good point. Is a lot of these hedges are on the
Yeah, and then on the other
on that property and
side,
outside this, so. I mean, because the tallest ones, I would have to go out there again, but the tallest ones, now that you say, they're probably just right on the property line or on their property line, yes.
oh yeah, on the other side. And then this is the other property line, and there's this, you can see this fence here. All this is on that side of that fence. So it looks like all here is on their side, maybe down in this area.
This is our side, isn't it?
This is your side, but
Yep.
see you can't really see this. I'll turn it around for you. The TV is be the wrong way for the TV. But you see this little thing? This is all on this side of the hedge, so the hedge is on the neighbor's property. Or if you use the fence line without a survey,
Yeah.
and then here is
I had a
down.
survey, but I was focusing on this property line.
Yeah, so down
Up here.
here, this is about this wall here. So there is a pepper tree.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if that denoted it. I don't see a pepper tree here. So I couldn't,
The pepper tree's on their side, I believe.
pepper tree. So then.
It's been trimmed because it leans all the way over.
Okay, yeah, so it looks like this hedge here is all on the neighbor's property, based on the fence line. So I was trying to figure out, and I know fence lines aren't always on the property line. We run that all throughout, but that's a common denoter for it.
You make a good case, I think.
Okay.
So it may be a moot point.
Okay.
However, the hedge lines work as a visual barrier
Mm-hmm.
for both properties, and the letters I have and the people I've talked to want to
Mm-hmm.
retain those. So you make a point that maybe it's not a discussion item here. It's maybe it's not so much of a.
That's what I'm wondering, since that this address isn't on the notice, isn't part of the request, I wouldn't be requiring it to be cut down or anything because it's not before me or anything. I just wanted to be clear, what portions are we talking about, and
That's
what
true.
actually am I asked?
The big
what the
hedge,
action
I
I'm
think,
asked.
the issue that I think the neighbor over here had was here, and what we were told, what SFDB said is, well, hedges in this area, as Stephanie said, is all over this whole hillside, and it's quite common. And SFDB said we'd like it to be not to exceed the roof height, which we agreed to. Because I think that it makes it fair for everyone. We're not changing, the roof line, and the hedge height shouldn't go above. So I actually had it trimmed, trimmed down to that height.
Okay.
Because there were some sprouts going up 3 or 4 feet higher than that. I also had, at the request of another owner over here, he said he would write a letter of recommendation, but he wanted this oak tree that happens to be on the property right here. Or it could be this one, though. The base could be here, but it leans over. And we had that trimmed out. Per the request, we had some of this trimmed here.
Also probably for fire, too.
Absolutely.
Clear space.
Absolutely.
That's all space and stuff.
As happens on a lot of properties, they get neglected for decade or more, and the landscape kind of takes over. And a lot of this was all leaning over here, and our walkway here was just kind of covered. So it worked for multiple purposes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Solved
Well,
the problem.
that's okay. Sorry, Claire. You can continue. I
No,
just
that's
was-
okay.
Yeah. No, you really.
I'm just trying to go through them one by one.
Yes.
Hedges seemed like the easy one, but maybe it wasn't. The other modifications really have to do with. Use your tab. That actually worked really well. Had to do with this and these two sides. So, this side I felt like the Single Family Design Board was pretty supportive of it after we talked about the architecture and the aesthetics and things of that nature. It makes a good improvement to the home. The only question I think on the table maybe that I have was staff's non-support of what we're doing here. And I'd have to, I might let the owner comment on it, but I'll start by saying that, we wanted to add some square footage to the house, but we were limited by 100 square feet. So we were very selective, and the owner was selective. And this was an area moving this over. So from here to here helped open this up for us in terms of views and things out this way, which we felt was important as a design perspective, which then would have severely reduced this powder room even further. And we've wanted to open it up for the sheer purposes of being consistent with this side of the building and having a more proper powder room in here. And I know there's been some discussion about the size of it and things of that nature, but from our standpoint, we don't see this as being an architectural wart on the building, if you will. It's a very minor addition of square footage. It's maybe, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but
30 square feet.
30 square feet or less than that, 20
20.
something.
20.
There you go.
It does a lot for the owner and our perspective on it, and I think given that it's not in public view or not impacting a neighbor, not something that you can see from anywhere unless you walk down on the deck, we feel that it's kind of a very simple thing, and we don't quite understand why staff doesn't really support it, but we're asking the request to have that modification because we feel it's important to the overall goals of the owner and the design of the building.
So for 2 points of clarification, and I'll let you do two.
Sure.
Okay, so your letter says the current powder room is way too small and blocks views from the entry to the south. So you're not meaning the entry here.
No.
You're meaning
No,
like the
not-
kitchen
not
area? Because you
here.
still, the entry you can't.
In here, when you come,
that entry,
when you're
okay.
coming in and you come around like that, that's part of what we're talking about.
Okay. And then is this window operable? Or why do you need the window there? Can it be mechanically ventilated or what?
It's nice to have a window in there. It's not, it would be operable. It would be just a little casement window, but it's not, it's outside. I mean, we'd have 5-foot max minimum setback from in the building code. So there's not a fire separation issue. It's just a benefit to the space.
Okay.
Going in a small dark closet with no window. Having the window helps.
You have lights. You can turn on, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's the answer. All right.
Okay. Yeah. Let me start from the beginning
Sure.
when we looked at this. When we looked at this house and to remodel it, we looked at a lot of things to improve the property. We were first talked to Stephanie, 11 months ago, and went through, and we were held by that 100 square feet that was code. So we said, how can we use that most efficiently? Because it's not very much feet. Initially, we were proposing a lot more, but we wanted to go the path of least resistance. When this issue came up on the particular bathroom, I was quite surprised, but we looked and looked on where we could relocate this and how to do it, and did not come up with a better solution. And so the reason being is when you walk in here, first of all, the house is a bit strange in that if you've been there, you have that garage and you have to come down the steps and walk in. Not the most normal or friendly type of entrance. So I wanted to make this more dramatic. So when you walk in here, your door opens against here. And as you walk in here, this is open and you start getting your openness in your views. That's the purpose of moving this bathroom back, because right now you have to take 3-4 steps until you come out into here. Right now there's a closet right here, and that's part of what's being demoed. But this area, I would like to push this, frankly, I'd like to push this farther back in and make it, here, but we needed to have a door. Okay, the only reason we don't have the whole toilet in this space, which is currently covered, is because the only place to put a door would be in the living room, and we didn't want to have a door to the living room there. So we ended up moving it back and having a door here. So that's how the concept of this got to be, because we wanted to move this space out. That was an initial goal of ours. And in redesigning, they couldn't find architects couldn't find another spot for the bathroom, and so we have there. We have no other use for this space. I don't mind, one thing was to come, put the wall here and jog it, but I think that would kind of upset the line of the house, and that's why it got longer. It kind of got to be a long, narrow bathroom. The door presents the biggest problem in putting the sink. You can't put a door here because then you don't have a sink. Pulling this whole wall out in here in the living room defeats the living room purpose and all the structural. It wouldn't work. So that's how this got deeper back. The only reason there's a window, as you know, there's all hedges and greenery back here, is just for airflow and. Again, as he says, ambient light is a little bit always better than artificial light. So that's the reasoning behind this. And again, I don't think this little space. This is already here. I don't think this little space impacts anyone. I know it doesn't impact this neighbor, and we've talked to them, and no one can see it. No one can feel it, and I think I basically to have to disagree with staff. If you're living there, you will notice the impact of pulling this back and walking in, because when you walk in after the door hits, you take 1-2 steps, and this is all open, and that's what we really looked at to make happen structurally, as well as the floor plan wise.
And the views are really, there's decent views here, but what we're trying to capture is this view here, which is why we've pulled this out, opened this up with doors, opened that up with glazing, so that you really get I think that way is looking right at like the pier and the marina. And
Yeah, it appears this way, but yeah, you look to the rest of the bay and you see the ocean. So it's nice.
Okay, and then what about these two? You did the hedges in that one, and then these guys. Anything?
Yeah, these are pretty minor additions. Again, we're adding a little bit of square footage here, and then again.
And this is mainly, and there's an existing wall out, so it's really in terms of
yeah,
it's
exactly.
enclosing
yeah, that's a good
outcome.
This is
of it.
already a deck. It
This
exists.
is an existing wall, and this is an existing wall up to that little point, and then the doors, the sliding glass doors are here today, so we're just pushing them out to the end of that wall line,
Yeah.
which is very similar. If I go up a floor to this upper floor, so the master bedroom up here, this extra couple feet that we get really helps make the bedroom work, frankly. And then the deck is just a nice, I think as Stephanie put it, indoor-outdoor living amenity to have.
And then this
So
is,
the existing deck is here, so that goes to about here.
Then the railing is
He's got.
It's just going to be a cable rail system.
all the way around.
Yeah, that was per discussion with SFDB.
So you can see, it looks, in color, it looks better, but the lines, it's very linear. The house is just, basically, we're taking what's already there and just extending it and making a 90-degree angle instead of the jog like that. That's really what we're doing. That's the,
Kind of speaks to the rationality of the original architecture.
right.
Wait, say that again?
It speaks to the original.
No.
Oh, sorry.
This line is already here.
Right.
Is what I'm saying. So when you look up from here.
Oh, you're talking about the jog if this modification was denied.
Right now
you're
it goes
talking
like
that.
this.
Okay.
Right now it goes like this, or it goes like that,
Okay.
And so what we're just trying to do is clean, kind of clean up the lines in our, and it's very rational to have the way, the way the structure goes. So this way, this is deck and this is, this is covered. We're taking this cover out. This piece is only, I think, 3 feet. Yeah, 3 feet right here. Okay, so.
Okay, and then here.
But that allows, that 3 feet allows a dining room. If not, it's too tight. Yes.
And then it's a clear window in the bathroom.
Oh, you're
Up
pointing
high.
at this
This
one
is
in the
the
powder?
bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah. We could do obscure glass if we wanted to. The point is just to get the light.
Right.
Okay.
Again, that whole side, you showed pictures, it's all hedged and fairly
On your neighbor's property.
dark. Yeah, right. I guess they could come down, they won't, but.
Okay.
And then this is a new deck. So just for the sake of discussion here, this is an existing deck that's on the property today. That's this deck here. And then we're adding a deck off the living room so we can open up. We're taking these windows out and putting a door system in so that we have a nice kind of wraparound deck so it really opens up the floor to the views and
Yeah.
indoor, outdoor.
And then, in terms of the letters I received, it was, so this one, this one, this one,
Yes,
not this one, and then one across the street, correct?
and one over here, should have, yeah.
Okay.
This one's a renter, been there for 20 plus years, so I didn't think it was pertinent. And it's the down below the building, the house is way over here, because that way that curves.
Right, okay, and then this hedge here looks newly planted. It's all within the right-of-way. Is there it blocks visibility exiting the driveway?
That's at the front, that's right here. That was there before. We did replace some plants along here, but this was already here before.
It's up in this area. Here's the curb
Oh,
cut.
yep, correct, it's right here.
Okay,
Correct.
well, it blocks the visibility. It needs to be lowered to 3.5 feet, or actually it's in the right-of-way, so you need a encroachment permit
Okay,
for it.
they were there before, but, all right.
Those are really my only question.
This whole street has it all the way across. That was a revelation as well, because even after I got the survey, I was focused on down here, and I worked with the other neighbor down there on some issues and reestablishing that, because there were a couple of different fences. But I later found out, shockingly, that this does not go up to the street, that this is actually the property lines here.
Right at the edge of the
This
driveway?
That's your driveway, yeah, but you use that driveway, but you don't own it. And I guess that goes all along the street, so everyone has their hedges all along up to here and their driveways here. But it,
Right away.
up and down, but it's still
It's
right
quite
away.
common when there's no sidewalk. People claim everything up to the street.
Yeah, it was
Just-
shocking to me.
yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Somebody
Anyway,
might put a
because
sidewalk
if you look at this next house, this house is here. He's got a patio right here, and landscaping all through there. I was like, because I don't know, there's some weird things, just things that don't meet in this town. This is
And
the
Clay
second
probably
time
can
I found it.
explain a bunch of them to you. But anyways, okay, so, yeah, I'll open the public hearing and see no one in the audience. And you've explained all the public comment. We haven't received any additional ones for that? Okay, so I'll close the public comment comment period or hearing?
all the letters. I'm sorry.
I do, yes, they're attached to my staff report, and I reviewed them all. And that's why I was clarifying which ones they were on this. So those are the ones I have. If you had more, those are the ones I've just received.
That's what, I could have got more, but
Okay, no, that's
I
fine.
didn't think it was necessary. Because
Yeah.
those are the people that are keenly property bordered and
Immediately affected.
immediately affected, exactly.
Okay, so like I explained, I did go out to the site, and I actually went back there twice. I went out once last week and was looking at the additions, and actually there's people out enjoying their open area, outside area. You can hear them talking and stuff. And so it is important in that setting in terms of the Riviera, you have the outside space, enjoy the view. And so in terms of amenities for these types of properties, view decks and views to the ocean and that are part of the draw for there. But in terms of my review of the requests, it has to do with, in the instance of the interior setback modifications, which you guys are requesting, is the interplay between the two properties, the different properties, and trying to mitigate or minimize potential adverse impacts is kind of harsh, but just the livability. You don't want to be approving something within a setback that adversely affects your neighbor. You need to look at the potential.
Were you able to get inside?
I didn't go inside your because it's all torn apart, but I looked in the,
Be very helpful.
yeah, I looked in the windows and stuff and noticed you're doing some
Just because the back,
demo.
this back door's open, and I just wonder, because
Oh,
when you get up here, it provides a whole, you'll get a whole nother opinion and feel of it, gives you a better perspective. But
Yeah, unless
Too
I'm
bad.
invited in or stuff.
I understand that as well, yes.
I'll walk
Yeah.
around the outside.
Right,
I'm
right,
not,
right, right.
but I'm not going to be.
I wouldn't
breaking
think
in
you would.
somebody's
I wouldn't
house.
think you would, but
Okay. Yeah.
It's unfortunate because I would think you would gain a better understanding. That's all.
Well, I'll go through the different issues. So in terms of, okay, I'll just do the hedge. I really only see there's one area that was on your property, and it was in the area that was against the fence. And what the request is to allow an existing hedge versus a new hedge to be over height. So my action would only be approving the ones that are on your property, and it appears that it's in this area. And I agree with your assessment, staff's assessment, and driving around the area. I've done quite a few modification requests in the Riviera because they are, skinny. They have a lot of times the garage is at the front because of this property, slopes down, so the cars are at the front. And the rezoning that we did, that downzoned, which the purpose of the rezone was more for density, to control the density versus setbacks, increasing setbacks. And that's caused a lot of issues, not only for the Riviera, but there's other areas of the city too. So that's, I see quite a few of those
I would imagine.
for nonconforming. And we tried to address a lot of those in the new zoning ordinance update. And but as Stephanie pointed out, it would have helped you if you were one story or on the first floor. But since you're second and third story, that goes back to that potential conflict between the neighbors and a public hearing where neighbors could come if they have concerns and address their concerns to the decision maker. That's more appropriate instead of just allowing those in these types of situations that property was affected because of downzoning. So in terms of the hedge, I agree. It is appropriate to allow it to be over the 14 feet height limit, given the topography and privacy issues in that, and the fact this house you can see is pretty close, even closer than yours. So that is a supportable request. In terms of the building addition within the setback on the this is considered the east. The east side, it's a very minor, although there is floor area within it in terms of the actual change within the setback for the building addition, that's very minor. There's no new openings. There's a door here, you're pushing it out, but technically it's facing this way. So a new door is not facing towards your neighbor. So this extension is not going to have an adverse impact to your neighbor. In regards to the deck extension, there is an existing deck. Extending it out 6 feet more in line with the existing deck that is an appropriate improvement because I agree in terms of design and just the look of it. It doesn't make sense to jog it in. And this little square, this area here is not going to significantly change if there's any potential adverse impacts to your neighbor as a result of this little area. It's already in this area. So this change, it is consistent with your existing development in the line. Over here, this is a new encroachment into the setback on the west side of your property. But when you look at where, so we're speaking about this area here, and you look at what the adjacent uses are, this house, your neighbor is way back in this area. And then this one, the house on 1122 Ferrero is also over here. So this small encroachment in terms of privacy impacts, and there is the big tree, the pepper trees, I think it's this circle. It provides some view or some privacy impacts. So in terms of the deck, and that's on the main level, which is your second floor, there's minimal impacts. And the same thought process goes for the deck extension on the upper level. This one is associated with a master bedroom, which in theory won't be as heavily used. It's not a big gathering place, whereas on the main level, that's where you're entertaining, and it has the kitchen, the living room. This is more of the enjoyment of the deck extension here would have minimal impacts. Then getting to the bathroom the bathroom extension here, I understand staff's concern regarding really the necessity in terms of overall site development, and I also understand the property owner's desire to gaining as much usability and enjoyment out of the main living area. So in terms of pushing it out, pushing it into the setback, there's the findings for modifications is promotes an appropriate improvement. It's generally consistent with intent and purposes of the zoning ordinance. It provides uniform improvement. I mean, there's lots of things. And when you look at the intent of single-family zones, it's for like the enjoyment of your property. Setbacks are light and air, openness, that kind of thing. And so, I ask in this instance, giving the existing development on the site and the development next door, which, again, here's your house, and here's the neighbor's house. And there is a lot of interaction here because I was just walking down here and I could hear them all out in that area. Would this little encroachment significantly impact your neighbor, or would it cause a change in the openness, the light, the air? I think the hedge already blocks out a lot of light in terms of the density of it. So then that's why I was questioning you about the window, because that does have a potential impact depending on what the use is inside the building in terms of noise, odor, that kind of thing. And in terms of a bathroom, there is other ways you can ventilate it. It's not as natural or organic, or you probably would have both anyways, right? A ventilation and a window. But looking at the elevation, it's a clear story, so it's up higher, and and you had indicated your willingness that it could be opaque to kind of. Although the hedge does block it, the hedge may die, or you may. But I know or I don't know. I assume it's the intent of the property owners on both sides to always have some kind of hedge. So if it died,
Look at the letter exactly.
Yeah.
He wants hedge.
So is that really a real issue? So I could find that is an appropriate extension with the condition that window remain. It is a clear story and it is opaque. in terms of it being a bathroom and a high use, it actually is the only bathroom on that level, so it is important. But I think operable would be fine. So I could find that that is an appropriate improvement. It represents an extension of the line. I realize so does this one too, but pushing out another almost 3 feet, that's such a minor encroachment. I think that that would be supportable, but I would put the condition on that it be clear story as remains and then opaque. Then I'd also, in regards to state safety, the hedge needs to be removed or any landscaping in that area. Well, it needs to be removed, and if the landscaping's over 8 inches, I know it's all up and down the street, but this is a discretionary action, and I have to look at safety. If it's over 8 inches, it technically needs an encroachment permit. You'd need to work with the Public Works because they limit
8
the...
inches high or
Yeah,
diameter?
high.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but you can work with them.
Yeah, I know that, I'm sorry for clarification purposes only, but I know that we run into that a lot on parkways, on streets downtown. And this is the same, you're applying that same logic or ordinance to this, to...
I'm applying it in terms of Title 30, where it has visibility from driveways and intersections.
Right, yeah.
For that limits it 3.5 feet.
Right.
But that's on private property. So what I'm referring to is the one on public's, in the public right-of-way, and that's what they look at. So I want it, in terms of the zoning ordinance, it would be 3.5 feet. But the zoning ordinance is only on private property. And so in terms of site visibility,
So because of the right-of-way line, you're saying that if we wanted to go to 42 inches or 3.5 feet,
you need to check with Public
we
Works.
would need to get an encroachment permit from Public Works?
I would
Or
leave
at
it
least
up-
talk to them?
Yes, talk to them and see what kind of documentation or approval or permit you'd need from them.
Okay.
Check it out.
Okay.
There's plenty of exceptions, so you should have gotten the line. They should understand. This is a dead end, as you know. So.
Right. And that might be stuff that they take into consideration.
Right.
It's not.
But it's really their,
But it's
sorry,
their call. I got
it's
it.
really a Public Works issue because of the right-of-way line is back here, not there. That's
But
what,
it's not my land.
So.
I thought it was.
You get to use it and have to maintain it.
But you don't. We get to park on it. It's the most important thing.
Okay, so I will be revising the conditions
Technically,
to.
no. Okay, let's not go technical.
Okay, so go back to my.
Sorry.
So I will be revising the conditions to reflect what I said in the hearing, and then also to reflect that this portion of the modification that pertains to the powder room is approved, and then it will also include those 2 new conditions. So then I,
That was the hedge and just the opaqueness.
correct,
Yeah. Okay.
and
thank you.
the clear story.
Excellent.
So therefore, I make the findings as I revised and the revised conditions of approval. And my action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. And they also have oversight authority of all my actions. And if they felt that warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day review period. And if either of those would occur, Stephanie would contact you. Okay?
Very
Great.
thorough.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I adjourn the meeting. Oh, and I also want to clarify that my approval of the modification is only for the portion of the hedge that's on this property.
Of course.
I have one more question since you're both here. We're off.
Wait,
Oh, did you?